Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. We're going to start the stream here in a minute. I'm just kind of watching my browser because it's having a hard time hooking up to Twitter, and usually I use that as a little announcement just to let folks know that the stream's going, just in case you want to join in. I suspect, because it's Friday morning, nobody really wants to join in, and that's okay. But I was just trying it out, and for some reason on my browser on my computer today, it's not really wanting to go to Twitter. I guess there's maybe nothing on. Of course, one of the things that isn't on is the Middle Ages in Modern Games conference. The Twitter conference has been going on, I think, all week, and I've really been enjoying some of the papers. James Bailey just gave a really good paper about identity in games, and he makes some incredibly good points about culture and identity being mostly monolithic in games. This isn't just medieval games, but he gives mainly examples from Mount and Blade and Crusader Kings, and he's right. Really loved his little screenshot sharing some of the code for Mount and Blade, showing in fact that culture is kind of just a single flag or a single tag. So he's advocating for a multi-tagged system, and I think that could be a way forward. I also think that kind of multifaceted and shifting and changing identities are a real challenge to code, but there's a lot of people who are a lot more clever than I about recombinant systems like this. So here's to hoping that some of that kind of dynamic nature of culture will appear in games. But there's been a lot of good papers by a lot of folks, and there's a keynote by a friend of mine, Mariana Lopez, who's an audio person, coming up. So you shouldn't miss that one either. So much for my plug for the Middle Ages and Modern Game Twitter conference, and it's hashtag MAMG21, I think. Anyway, it's going on. It's good. It's well worth a look. Okay, so Twitter won't load on my computer this morning, but hopefully it'll load on yours. All right, I'm just going to jump in here to just kind of keep monitoring things, and we're going to explain why you've been staring at this early medieval cross. So I need an early medieval cross, and do you think this cross is really bent like that? I don't know. This is my own photogrammetry data, and sometimes when I process the heck out of photogrammetry, I get the distortion of the lens in, and I get some spherical distortions. It's not being distorted that direction, it's only being distorted in one direction. But anyway, I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't matter. It adds a little bit of charm to this one, and I'm not trying to make anything that is particularly accurate. I just needed a cross. The only one I could find over on Sketchfab was a really nice one, but really not what I needed, because it's really hard to identify as a cross. This one's a lot better, and even though this game is set in northeast Britain, maybe on an island in the North Sea, this cross is in fact right from the very center of Ireland. This is at the monastery and cathedral of Clonmacnoise, and I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly, so my apologies to anyone who understands and speaks Irish. Yeah, big apologies for that. But anyway, this is the cross. I visited there 4 or 5 years ago now, and did a photogrammetry kind of walk around the cross, and was able to get these results. This is a 7,000 polygon mesh, which is nicely low poly for me, which still shows that there's like some surface detail. You can kind of make out that there's figures in panels on this amazing cross, and some detail in the edges. Really beautiful piece. This took me a day. It shouldn't have, but it took me a day to work on, and that's because I was having trouble with the spaces here in this open cross. They just weren't coming through the photogrammetry. It was just turning into a mush here in the middle, and I finally came up with the brilliant idea to just simply do a Boolean operation on it, which is what has happened, and it's worked out well enough for these purposes. So this is an Anglo-Saxon period, and this ends up being kind of important to the game because this is how the church, which we've spent a lot of time with now, this is how the church starts, is as a cross, and then it builds up from there. So the cross is kind of this cross monument is kind of a linking monument between the spring head that's on the hill in the scene we've been working on for years now, and the church, which is the kind of first point of contact for the player. So this is the bridge here. Yeah, this is the bridge, and this one is present during Roman and early medieval, and really even goes up into kind of high medieval before it ends up elsewhere. And speaking of elsewhere, it ends up, let's see if we can get this to show up. It ends up like this. Yeah, you can't quite tell maybe, but this is broken. This is broken into many pieces. So let's see if we can get these pieces to show up. Come on. So anyway, yeah, it ends up broken into many, many pieces and buried in a wall of the later medieval church. And so when you rebuild one section of the church, you find one of these pieces, and there's the base. That's nice. And yeah, then you go from there, and you discover, that this whole cross exists, and this is kind of the earliest Christian presence, monumentally present on the site. And the cross you find, I'm going to use these fracture pieces, but I'm going to choose one of these pieces as the one that you actually find, because you can zoom in on it, and this one has a little bit more surface detail. You can just make out a little more of that kind of detail. So I'm trying to figure out which piece I use. This one isn't particularly natural in its fragmentation. Really, these delicate bits probably would have broken off a bit, but such is Voronoi fracture. So which piece are we going to take? We might take like that piece, although that's too thin for my taste. We might just take one of these shaft pieces, and that might be the best thing to do. So like one of these, which shows lots of panels with lots of sculpted detail. So we might do that one. This is the very base of it. Not as good because you've lost the heads for most of these things. So we might use this one as the one that the player finds, which would be kind of fun. So anyway, that's the choices we've got. So we've got a complete object, and then we've got the broken objects, and I need to get those into Unity. So that's nice. There's a few other things to look at here. I've been going into others, so we were breaking this up at the end of last week, and I need to get that into Unity. This is the octagonal temple. Again, I haven't actually broken this into multiple pieces of mosaic. Yeah, I haven't split that up very much. I was thinking about how I might actually split that into a grid and retain my colors, and I don't know yet, so we're going to leave that. But this is now sort of done. And so it could use some importing into Unity as well. I need to play with the pivots and stuff. And then this is the Norman church, and it actually has all of its material, or not materials, but it's got all of its coloring. It just doesn't have a material on it yet. So we can make that just for our own edification here. So why don't we just go ahead and do that. And then let's go ahead and apply this to everything. This might need a little bit more work, but I was starting to kind of lose the will to live yesterday. But let's try to just put this in just so we can understand what's what. And you'll notice that this model isn't really broken up, particularly in, it's not actually fractured in Voronoi fractures like we have been doing. And that's because I'm not 100% certain how I want this to appear in the game. So, do I want it to be a number of small pieces? Hang on. What's going on with this one? Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, so do I want it to be a number of small pieces? Or do I want it to just be whole pieces that the player just sees because they will have already rebuilt this? Good question. So we'll have to work on that a little bit. Here we've got the Norman apps, and again, do we want that? What do we want? How do we want that to appear? Yeah, anyway, a number of questions there. But that's the Norman church, and it's built out of pieces of the Anglo-Saxon church, which we see that right there. It's so hard to see, so this is a detail that probably no one will ever get to see, but we can see this is the outer wall of the Anglo-Saxon church, and they've bashed an arcade through it, and we can see here the outer wall of another part of the Anglo-Saxon church. I need to change stone color on that, I've just realized. And we can see that they've actually blocked up a door and bashed a new door through the wall here as well. And I need to change the stone coloring here in this area. And then we need some coins in here. Not C-O-I-N-S, but Q-U-I-O-N-S. Architectural coins. Anyway, so we need to get all of these things actually into the game. So obviously you can see I'm stalling because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it. So let's work on the cross. Let's see if we can get that actually in the game. We need two things from the cross. We need to pick one of these fragments, and like I said, well, the center of the cross head is kind of a really compelling object because you know what it is. Like I said, I don't like the way it's fragmented. It looks too simplistic, but maybe that's just me. So maybe we ought to just grab this piece. Yeah, this piece, fracture part 3 and fracture part 7. Maybe we'll use those two. And the rest we'll take with us. So we're going to take this with us over to a new... Ooh, nice. Yeah, there you can see where those pieces came from. Anyway, we're going to take this over to a new file because we don't want all the rest of the stuff from the file, and I've just got to fix the materials here. Let's get rid of that one. Substitute this one in. I only need one material. I don't need two instances of a material. Just trying some stuff out. Okay, yeah, so I've lost my reference to my mapping, my vertex mapping, my vert colors, but there they go, they're back on now. Okay, so we'll bring this one over, because I just need the two fragments of the higher resolution one, and then I need all the fragments of the lower resolution one to build it, and then I need the whole one. So anyway, let's bring this into the project. I think this one will do fine. So this will be our warm-up. So let's look here. Yeah, that's fine. Clon noise, cross. What do we want to say? Frags and whole. Sure, why not? Okay, all those settings are good. All right, that's been exported. Let's go find it. There we go. That's going to go there. I know I make everything difficult. Hey, speaking of Unity, how about that UE Unreal Engine 5 demo that's been going around? People have been doing kind of jaw-dropping things with it. I keep thinking maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to switch engines. I'm so deeply invested in this one that that would be very difficult. But maybe it's very useful. I don't know. Okay, let's bring this one on into the game. Just see what we've got. All right, that's cute. Okay. Let's see how we can import this one. Look at that. That's cool. Okay. We don't need any of these things set. It doesn't need to be read-write enabled, which is fantastic. Does it? So here's the problem. I may want to bring in just the base piece. I may want to leave it sitting somewhere so that the player can just kind of reassemble it. But for this, yeah, that can come in as a separate piece. Yeah, that's fine. So, no normals whatsoever. No UVs. And I think we're good there. So we're going to apply that. Wow, yeah, good. And we're going to do a remapping on the materials, and we're going to call it only, I think, which material are we using now? Ooh, crud. What did we call the new material? I can't remember. This is terrible. Okay. I think, is it just called flat? Yeah, it's just called flat. That's the one we want. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember. Okay, that's the one we want. Let's apply that. Okay, there it is. There's our cross, and that needs to have a home for itself, and I'm not 100% certain where we're going to put that home. Because we might want to put it, there's a well right about here, and we need to think about where we're going to put that in the whole broad scheme of things. I still haven't figured out what's going on with the vertex colors and the shading in this model here. That's something I got to spend some time working on. But my cross, I got to get rid of all of this stuff and go straight down to the Anglo-Saxon period. Figure out where we put that one. So let's take a look. Okay, I need that to go away. Yep, and then what is this? Well, that may be fine. That may be okay as far as where we place the topsoil and all that kind of stuff. What are we looking at here? So is this the Roman base? Yeah, that's the Roman base. Do we want it built on the Roman base? Or do we want things to have kind of moved on a little bit from there? That's the big question. What is the Saxon Church standing on? If we take the Models Parish Church and turn that off, oh, that's much better. Okay. Saxon church is standing on the Roman base. The stones have fallen on the Roman base. So we'll leave the medieval one off, because we actually want to start with a Roman base here. So let's go ahead and put that cross right about here. That's pretty much what I want. That's the well. That's the most important feature. So, and that's the spring and stuff. So, yeah, let's use that one. Let's go grab our model, see what we can do. Wow, that's really large. Oh yeah, because I never scaled it. Because I never figured out what the real world scale was of this. So, let's just scale this one down in person. But that's really big. That's, you know, that's impressive. And where did I put it? Where has it gone? I just dragged it, dropped it in here, and now I have no idea where I put it. Nice. All right, where'd you go? Oh yeah, you're in the start menu. That's not where you need to live. You need to live over here. Yeah, that's better. All right. Let's see, where do we go from here? Gigantic monument. Here it comes. Yeah. This is something that you would find in like an Assassin's Creed game, or something where you would find like just a Colossus statue just stuck here. You know, some piece of sculpture that's like a million times bigger than anything else, and they have like, you know, dozens of them scattered across the world. Yeah, we're not really about that. Let's scale this thing down to more human size, to more like what it is in real life. Even that's a little bit big, but that looks really nice from a distance. You can really pick up that there's quite a lot of carving on the surface. I'm very pleased with that. Actually, that model looks really good in the scene. That's very good. I need to come up with some sort of plinth base for this, don't I? Yeah. Okay. Well, we can work on that. All right. Yeah, do we want it facing that direction? No, we don't. We want it facing east-west. So let's face it kind of. We don't need to have it face perfectly east-west. Add a little variety to it. Have it right there in front of the well. Because of course the well is a sacred site, and it becomes their first baptismal font here on the island. Actually, I'm just trying to move it on top of this little hill, so then I don't have to make a plinth at all. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. There we go. That's very nice. I really like the way that looks in the scene. All of that detail is certainly worth it. That's wonderful. Okay. That's where that whole object lives. It's nicely placed in the scene. I need to get this out of here though. Fracture part 7 or 3, which one did we want? I really think I wanted to find... 7 would be so cool for the player to find. 3 would be so much more likely. I've got to choose. I've got to choose. I don't like this. I don't like having to make this choice. Well, 3's going to be the flashy one. Is it 3? No, 7's going to be the flashy one. Let's choose 7 because it's the flashiest. All right. Twisted my arm. So 7 needs to come up here and live in this scene. And it needs to live in the inventory model holder. So let's see if we can actually do that without breaking the prefab. Let's find out. Come on. Yep. Fine. Let's unpack that prefab. 3 gets deleted. 7 goes up to the new scene. Marvelous, and that goes to wherever it needs to go. Okay. You know, I don't know what does the center of this thing look like. Uh-oh. I may have to readjust my center. No, it's the center of the object. That's great. Okay. Okay. All of these live at 0, 0, 0, so that's good. That one doesn't. It's okay. The rest does. Okay. Let's grab one of our objects. Like my lamp. Turn it on. And turn on the inventory camera. There we go. Roman lamp is UI. This needs to be set as UI. Very good. Come on, inventory camera. Show us what you got. No? Okay, where do you want to go live then? Sorry, I'm having a fight with this because I want our little cross fragment to appear here in this scene so I can scale it down. I just can't remember how to coax it into doing that. That's embarrassing, isn't it? How do we do that? Well, let's do it slightly differently. Let's just zoom in on it. There we go. That's better. Okay, that's how the lamp appears. So let's change how this cross appears. Ooh, do we have some reverse normals? Would not be great. Yeah. Marvelous. I can go fix some normals now. I really need to be able to look at this through the camera, but that's okay. That size is correct, so that's fine, but I've got to go check out my normals now. This is irritating. Okay, we do have a top and a bottom. Ooh, okay, so our normals are fine on that piece. But they're not fine. Huh. But they're not fine there. Top and the bottom, the side pieces are fine, but boy, we've lost our normals right there. Okay, well, that's something to work on at a later date. Boy, I wonder what happened. I can't look around like the underside of it to see if the normals are showing up correctly, although I suppose I could. Got some shadow acne happening. Yeah, that's not really helping me much. Well, let's look at this in shaded wireframe. If we just not have... Yeah, even there I can't quite tell. Let's just do wireframe mode. I don't know. I was hoping it was going to show me if I had any kind of geometry here in the surface at all. Like if the geometry just hadn't come through. Anyway, that's interesting. We're going to have to kind of extract that one and fix it later on. But not now. So interesting, the little bugs and errors you run into. All right, let's go back to that cross. We'll have to see where we put that cross fragment later on. Okay, so what are we doing with this? We need to take that and just turn that off. It doesn't need to exist now. And the rest of this needs to be stuck into time B. Yep, change those children. We'll figure out how this works. Okay. Well, we've placed that. Let's go grab the next thing to place. There's like so much extra work that needs to happen here. No, we don't need to save that. I'm really curious. Yeah, see, that's what it would look like if we reverse the normals. So I'm just really curious about why we don't have any normals there when the model comes in. I'll have to export it as an FBX and then re-import it here into Cinema and just see if the normals came in all funky. It may have to do with the shader that's attached to it as well. They're just getting the normals wrong because of this gigantic, really ugly N-gon. I don't know. Odd things. Okay, next. What are we going to bring in? We can bring in the octagonal temple. No, I've got to mess with the pivots on that one. We could bring in this one. We've got the whole object here. I'm not 100% certain I need all of these separate pieces. That's my ruined plinth, I think. No, it's not. Yeah, so do I need all these separate pieces or not? That's the big question. I don't really know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Good enough. Let's just leave it like this and see what we get to. Okay. Let's go put that into the stratigraphy assets. Let's go ahead and export that. And then we'll make our copy. We'll throw it into the Roman section of the buildings folder. Right here. Now, what's going to be really interesting is to see if this comes in at the same period, the same position as its predecessor. So we're going to need to turn on that Roman temple big. It's going to need to be turned on. There it is. All right, let's see what happens when we just bring this one in. Let's import this first. Part of this model needs to be mouse over, which means it needs to be a separate file because it needs UVs. Well, does it need to be a separate file just for that? Maybe not. This doesn't strip out UVs, it just strips out normals. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe we don't need that separate file, so let's just apply it. It's taking its time because there's so many separate fragments, hundreds of fragments. Most everything's just going to get the flat EDX shader applied to it. And it's got to do a re-import. Now, let's just grab this and drop it straight into the scene and see what happens. Hey, it appeared in something like the right position. So that's good, right? Yeah, Cinema really monkeyed with this. It's right size though, that's important. So let's stick it in here. Oh, you kept the same pivot. Ugh. Kept the same pivot, but I might have moved it around a little bit. Alright, well. Manual adjustment time. That's a cool looking little tomb though. I like that. Okay. I didn't need that. I just wanted the wireframe. Okay. Not sure that helped me. All right. I kind of wanted to see both, but that's okay. Let's turn off the frags start and the frags end. Let's turn those off so we're just dealing with the tomb. Yeah, that helps. Almost in the correct place. It doesn't really matter because we're going to get rid of the original one once we get this placed. Oh, wrong shortcut. I hate moving pivots. There we go. That's what we wanted. And then this one goes away. There we go. Can turn those back on. Beautiful. What a mess we've made. I love it. So we actually are going to have a scene that looks something like this, except not quite like that. At one point, the player will be confronted with a scene that looks somewhat like this. We're going to have a plinth there for the temple tomb, but you will get kind of this cross, although it'll probably be all broken down, and you will get this kind of ruined church, and our task will be to figure out what we do as far as rebuilding, and this has been a game design issue that I've been kind of mulling over for quite a while, which is if we're presented with a scene like this, because I want to show that the kind of the Roman stuff is still around while we have the kind of early medieval stuff, and that one may be made out of the other. I actually want to show that the two are going on at the same time. I want to make a connection between this older monument and this newer monument, and this really newer monument. I want to make those connections because then later on I want you to see kind of how these disappear but get reincorporated into others. The problem is that when the player is presented with ruins, they're going to want to just click on it and rebuild it. So if you rebuild the church, that'll probably end up rebuilding this. So I've got to think of a way that doesn't like require me to recode everything and make a really complicated system. A way that just kind of works and kind of makes sense. I suppose when we see the ruins of... Yeah, we're going to see all of this ruined. If we rebuild the church... Well, if we rebuild this tomb, it's going to take us back to the period of its kind of height. And that's going to be the Roman period. So this whole church is just going to disappear completely. If we rebuild the church, it's going to have to rebuild that as well. So these are kind of some questions that I've been trying to work on. And I don't really have an answer for it yet. It's a design question. Because these are going in different directions in time. And then this is going to be complicated when we bring in the Norman church. Because the Norman church sits right on top of where the Roman temple tomb is, well, right next to it, and replaces it. So in that ruined period, if we were to find pieces of this, we would go a different direction in time. Anyway, gets confusing. And I need to do some combinations of things in here. So, anyway, nobody knows what they're doing, I suppose. All right. What's the pivot look like for the Norman church? Not even anywhere remotely close to the pivot for anything else? Probably not. I'm going to have to look that up. Okay, let's combine a few things here. Well, since it's ready to go, let's go grab the octagonal temple as well. Well, the pivots aren't right there either. Yeah, there's some work to do on these. Let's work on the Norman church first. So the thatch and the timbers, they can go together. They can be the same piece. I think. Okay. The wall and the foundations need to be separate. Pyramid roof. Thatch and the timbers there can be combined again. Let's call it thatch. So, I'm trying to think of what I actually, where I put the corbel table and the corner buttresses, all these things. If I just jam all of this into one, because it's not all just one. I think I need to go do some careful adjusting here. Yeah. I'm just trying to think through about how I need to key this model so that it comes into the right place and orientation. I need to go grab the model that's already in the scene and just grab its base pivot. That seems like a little bit of hunting. It would be interesting to know if this is really at world 00. I mean, it kind of seems like it is. So maybe if I stick my pivot for the entire scene at world 00, that might be enough. Let's create another null. That's at 00. Good. Get rid of that pivot. Yeah, that looks like that might be right. Everything might come in the correct place here. Let's find out. Did that actually export? Who knows? No. There we go. That might actually export now. Yeah, there it is. How interesting. So big. Okay. Just gonna stick this in medieval. Here it comes. Ooh, I got some duplicated materials here. Not to worry, we'll just set them all to the same. Yeah, not too bad. It doesn't need any of this stuff. It's my favorite moment there where I just get rid of the normals completely. Okay. So let's just drop this into the medieval section and see what happens. Well, it dropped into the wrong section is what happens. There. Wow, not even close to lined up correctly. I gotta do something about that. Alright, let's turn off a few things here. I've got to line these up perfectly, so I've got to figure out a way to get these things. They're not even in the... I got to figure out a way to get these things lined up right. because manually doing it is not really a satisfactory option. Oh, and I forgot I had to color up some of this. I should make like a master file, which is just pivots, important pivots that I know line up correctly. That's about right. But I'll never do it perfectly. I really kind of want it perfectly lined up, so yeah. I think I'm gonna have to make a master file of pivots. That sounds like a nice morning or evening. Oh well. Well, anyway, that's where the Norman church is gonna go. And we see that it bangs right into the Roman temple tomb. Well, almost. It comes right up to the edge of it, but that's kind of too close. So they will have had to have knocked it down and incorporated it into the new building. And there's this kind of lovely moment that I really want to have, and they'll build this into the tower walls and stuff. There's this moment I want to have where we've got this in ruins, and we've got this part of the church being in progress, being built. And what I really want to, we can have some scaffold and carts and wagons and stuff around. And then what I really want to have is I want to have the player click on the ruins here and have these pieces kind of disappear into the walls here that are being built as you finish the building process there. That's the kind of really lovely moment I want to have. I want to illustrate that process. And we might get it with the octagonal temple, which kind of sits about here. And the player's never going to see the octagonal temple and the little temple tomb mausoleum at the same time. They're mutually exclusive objects based on player choice. So this transition from one building to another, this illustration, is really kind of one of those thorny issues I need to work out, because it's either going to work for the Anglo-Saxon, because we can show like the Anglo-Saxon church under construction and the octagonal thing being demolished, or we're going to work on this part and this. So I need to figure out a way to do that twice. So that's something we'll probably see over the next week or two as I'm kind of working my way through it. But that's probably something that no one needs to see live on stream. This will be something I'll work on kind of off stream. So anyway, we've got stuff in, but I really do need to work on pivots, quite obviously, and I need to work on a few other little things. But we're getting there. Once these objects get into the scene, we can start actually messing around with some gameplay features and start really moving forward with the design and getting closer and closer to a demo. So I think I'll probably leave it there for today. And let's just save the whole project. And yeah, we'll come back on Monday. Not quite certain what I'll be building on Monday. Maybe we'll just kind of work on some of this chore stuff. And progress will slowly move on. If you have a holiday weekend here in America, it's the Memorial Day weekend, and it's actually a 3-day weekend for me, which is super cool. Enjoy that weekend, and if not, just enjoy your weekend anyway. And we'll see you back here. I was going to say we'll see you back here on Monday, but that may not be the case because it's a 3-day weekend. Better say see you back here on Wednesday just to be sure. And if I see you on Monday, it'll be a surprise. Anyway, enjoy the holiday weekend. And, or if it's not a holiday, just enjoy the weekend. And we will see you Wednesday. Probably not Monday, but maybe Monday. All right. Thanks for bearing with this one. And we'll see you when we see you. All right. Bye, everyone.